Hell, to me, is suffering, and heaven, to me, is peace. I understand these as existing in one place and containing all things. As a seeker, in pursuit of my powers of manifestation, it is my perception, how I view existence, that becomes the method and mold of my creation. The question that remains is whether my appetite for understanding, or the lack thereof, has any bearing on this truth, especially when considering that so many are subjected to prolonged suffering. And so, my answer to this question, at least for now, is born in the pursuit of my prolonged peace itself. This peace, which has been said to be of God, and also of surpassing all understanding. This peace, which perhaps is not a choice, but rather a privilege to be exploited. A few days ago, I opened a container for a collective channeling and experienced what is referred to as God consciousness, or unity consciousness. These terms can refer to a mystical experience that transcends the separation between the self and God. In this overwhelmingly peaceful and loving container, I was able to feel an understanding of why I choose to live in the presence of God, even in the absence of logic. Of late, the journey to my containers has not felt easy, not easy at all. I have experienced much resistance, as though I know that there is something large in there that asks for my courage, but also offers so much more than I believe I can fathom. I find myself proceeding with so much caution, but also somewhat of an obligation, as if the only other option would be to embrace stagnancy. For me, this is no option at all. It is void of understanding, and even more importantly, it is void of peace. Before I had fully integrated this experience, I began the journey to open the next container. Within it, Spirit led me to host a live. I did not know what to expect, but knew it was my only next step. Such is the nature of opening a container to Spirit. I'm obliged to try my best to let everything I know go. This has been a test on my confidence, because that which determines which tools I employ to reach the depths I am led to is beyond my human and rather fallible grasp. By this, I mean the challenge I've faced of needing to let go of using tarot cards, at least for a time. As if this can be likened to jumping into the ocean in the dark without even an armband. The video turned out to be what felt like a workshop on a philosophical crossroads on the logic of believing in God, what it means, and where to from here. I have left links to both of these videos. The first is called God Consciousness, and the second is a live discussion with the Pyramid Energy audience. It's called Confluence. This video begins with a comment I received this morning, which brought me so much clarity and peace, which I have still been searching for as I work my way through this creative crossroads I find myself at. I've left timestamps below because I recognize that this video may end up far from brief. I also ended off with a Rumi Oracle card that entered my heart in closing. This is what Shamus wrote. Thank you for being the conduit for these types of opportunities to occur where thoughts and views and information can be discussed openly and, most importantly, safely. It's no small thing being responsible for that, so I hope you do feel an appreciation from the people who are being given a platform to contribute because of your work. And if not, please accept this as a sincere expression of gratitude from everyone here, and I hope no one minds me speaking on their behalf regarding this. I was just wanting to share my personal view regarding the eventual crossroad one inevitably does encounter when embarking on this complex but noble quest of self-discovery and truth-seeking. I think you are completely right with your assessment of some people possibly making the decision that they no longer wish to be open to any further information. But I don't think the crossroad is just these two paths only. one being to continue on and the other to exit the journey. For me personally, I could never stop seeking truth, even if I wanted to go down an easier path. I want to learn and understand absolutely everything there is to uncover to the maximum capacity of my comprehension. This extends to my own self-awareness, and I have never been afraid of my flaws and shadows or being told about them. However, rarely have I ever been made aware of a flaw or negative personality trait that I wasn't already aware of and actively trying to address or overcome or work through already. The challenge for me that I have encountered, which is presenting as somewhat of a stumbling block, is the deeper I have gone into spirituality, esoteric and occult information, and even scientifically with advanced physics and metaphysics, is that with every single paradigm or mechanism of how something operates as its own system, within the overall system or framework that is reality, the information at one point will always reach a point of contradiction, resulting in a conceptual paradox. I am autistic or neurodivergent, so I see the work in terms of patterns and systems. So in order for me to make sense of what I am observing or experiencing, my brain identifies patterns to form conceptual bubbles, which become a detailed working model of one possibility or outcome. This is then repeated however many times is necessary based on the information I come across, until in my mind's eye, I see a topic or concept as sometimes hundreds or even thousands of complex information bubbles that are interconnected as sets and subsets based on the structure or mechanics of how that one particular topic functions. This all happens in real time, and whenever any of those bubbles no longer allows the overall functionality of the concept map as a whole to work, or becomes a contradiction, that particular bubble has to be removed from the connective web of bubbles within that topic. My brain has always done this from my earliest memory, and I've since learned that actually a form of computational analysis computer programmers use when writing complex codes to test for errors in what can be a billion lines of code. I also consciously reconcile for possible biases as well, but obviously I am not suggesting I am perfect. But I cannot discount the effectiveness of this particular way my brain functions as not being an incredibly accurate way to unraveling and understanding complex systems and concepts. I definitely am not wanting to close myself off to further information, and I am also not wanting to discount or deny God as the ultimate conclusion of what everything means. But I've reached a point of awareness and understanding of most things I set out to understand, reality being my absolute life's goal that I decided long ago to attempt to fully understand, that there comes a point, and this goes for every single topic, where the fundamental mechanics converge into a paradoxical 0 point that can no longer be reconciled. This is not the same thing as just needing to find more information or not having sufficient information. This is where one fundamental aspect of something and another fundamental aspect of something, which are both completely functional individually, but both become requirements of something to function, but paradoxically contradict each other when applied together. These are usually things that can't exist unless the opposite is true of the other function, yet both do exist and apply to one concept. If anyone is interested in exploring this concept further, look up set theory, and it should give a good insight into the types of contradictions I'm talking about. This brings me to the end of Shamus's comment. This next part is my response. You see, Shamus, everything you wrote here is proof that something amazing is happening, whatever it is. I read your entire comment with my mouth agape. Thank you so much for writing this here, for your openness, your truth, and actually, your diplomacy. It is a privilege to host this platform. It was scary for me to be pushed into this live, but it was clear to me that Spirit is fully aware that this was asking me to jump off a cliff, and that I had no other option. You answer so many questions that I, personally, have not had the openness to compute. You have brought clarity to how my mind operates, however, to an extent. In no way do I want to undermine how your system operates by comparing how I have observed my own operate, and even how my awareness of it has evolved the more I have leaned into the creativity that my spiritual journey has offered, but I feel very connected to this idea of being neurodivergent. I cannot explain this fully, but it's in how my operating system and body are finding it progressively hard to engage in certain types of work that used to come to me so easily. And also how my brain, working together with my intuition, spots inconsistencies, even in myself. I have not always declared this up front. You will have picked it up when I do, but I don't say outright that it doesn't make sense to me. I think you've been watching my videos for some time, watching me grapple with some of these spiritual theories, even scientifically, using my limited knowledge and language for them. You might have noticed how I see most things logically, but when it comes to this idea of changing the world to an ultimately good place, or the topic of God, I get stuck and quite illogically leap over the paradox. I have been hyper aware of this behavior, but unable to explain it outside of needing to believe in God, because I cannot perceive or physically carry the extent and weight of that which I rely on to pull me through this life. I also looked into set theory, as you recommended, and I am inclined to say that maybe the concept of God could be described as a branch of logic. On a softer level, I feel like I have to believe it is there, to know I'll make it through when I jump and need to not cling, to trust. That said, I need to understand in order to believe, and so I suppose that's what has led me to this juncture. This coming forward to share your truth and your observations feels like the beginning of the coloring in and acknowledgement of this paradox that I conveniently jump over. I will ask this, perhaps to my own detriment, but is it possible that God is an entity, or rather complex spirit guide or offering, an understanding of this belief that is available for those that need its strength, in order to evolve to the distant extents that we yearn for, that being a version of one's higher self that has the power to, if one believes in it, make one very powerful. You are really challenging me here, because if I look at this as a logical thinker and not a believer, I may be faced with accepting this concept of checkmate that was presented. I don't know what you think as you observe the journey I've had on this channel, but I am curious where it leads now that I find myself here. I went into that live with only 4 words, 2 of which I didn't really understand and needed to look up: confluence and divergence. I brought the 3rd one in, checkmate, and the 4th I didn't have the guts to dive into just yet, wanderer. This because I wanted to have worked through the first parts before leaving in a belief crisis or clash. That live was a co-creation of this audience. I might not have full sight of each individual, however, my spirit and that which leads my journey is aware of it all. This is how I became aware of our clash in beliefs and understandings. I have mentioned before that even when it comes to personal readings, there seems to be a delay on my end as I prepare spiritually to comprehend what it is I will be communicating. I understand that there are people that have channeling waxed, but I do not. And perhaps this is because I feel my way through the energy physically and choose my words mentally. If I was perfect, I would probably be able to deliver a Japanese channeling, which I cannot. Yet. This could also just be a result of the path I'm on, to absorb the wisdom that is being delivered through me, rather than to just transfer it. Back to the words that came out of the live. One of the concepts that came out of it is telepathy. Later on, I received more clarifying comments from others. 1. divergence as referring to neurodivergence, and 2, telepathy as the gift that's being studied on an autistic community. Here, I was referred to a channel called the Telepathy Tapes. I watched one video and started crying because I felt this feeling of having found home somehow. When I listened to one of these tapes, so many of the children were speaking truths that were brought to my attention during my one recent channeling that I later researched and felt aligned with an encounter that is described as God consciousness or unity consciousness. All of this has brought me to some kind of understanding of the reason for that live, and also the reason why it was exploratory rather than offering any logical conclusion or consensus. I do not know the answer here, just that maybe this is a major juncture in the understanding of reality and existence amongst seekers. With this said, I have a feeling I have been grappling with, just in terms of how I would begin to navigate it, but I feel that the autistic community and the facilitators of the work of having their voices heard may have extremely valuable insights to this existential question, where to from here? That being because of their nature, and because, at least to me, and when looking at them on the spectrum of reality, they appear to be living mostly within unity consciousness, rather than living as much in their bodies as neurotypicals. In one of the tapes, someone said that they want the world to know that they hold insights for humanity on our evolution. I, for one, believe this to be true. This may very well be the checkmate. However, this concept suggests that there is a king and that there are no other moves, at least not until the game of chess changes. And then the word wanderer becomes quite an indictment on those that choose not to seek further. After looking more into said theory, more of my truths have come to light. One being, and I'll speak quite honestly here, a major reason why I have embarked on this journey is to understand my nature as a logical manifester. With all of these considerations taken into account, that I may be doing all of this within an apparent paradox, then I would need to accept that God is a path I have chosen, a reality and perception I have chosen, where I enjoy free will as my superpower, which includes the liberty to reject the existence of anything that could ever hold me back. This puts quite an amount of responsibility on my shoulders, but also allows me to accept that it does work, that it is foolproof. Only, I need to have full belief in the logic of its paradox. This theory actually reduces the idea that anything I truly desire could ever be outside of my will to a nil. The acceptance of this would also, by logic, allow me to accept that it is of no consequence whether I am a wanderer or not. I just need to accept that this is the game I chose to play, and that even though the king has called checkmate, I am still allowed to wander and achieve my goals. I am also grateful to enjoy this privilege because I am still left with the gaping question around evil, oppression, war, and bloodshed that causes so much suffering, but find myself unable to relate to a reality so constricting, one that I have not experienced, one too painful to perceive, and so I, admittedly, selfishly, and for the sake of my own peace, limit my exposure to its meaning. As Osho once said, paradox is a basic, intrinsic quality of truth. Let it sink into your heart forever. Truth, as such, is paradoxical. Although all paradoxes are not truths, all truths are paradoxes. I found these words of his while trying to solve for love, which to me turned out to be a paradox too. Again, on behalf of the community here that is interested in this discussion, I want to express my sincere gratitude to you for bringing forward words that have assisted me greatly in gathering my thoughts as I try to make sense of this point at this river called confluence, and this unfathomable paradoxical reality that I have chosen to perceive, called God. It feels as if something huge has lifted and reorganized my mind to be able to continue with my work in peace, and also with a newfound understanding and respect for each individual's choice on how they approach their own path, which was something I have been yearning ever so deeply for. In closing, I will share a message from the Rumi Oracle guidebook. The card that was brought to my heart is "The Impossible Made Possible." With this, I would like to take the opportunity to honor the artist of the artwork, Rasuli, and the author of the channelings in the guidebook, Alana Fairchild. I am so grateful to be able to work with this co-creation with Rumi, to be led to his messages shared through Alana Fairchild, and to share them with you. Even how this deck landed in my hands and my life was divine, but maybe that is a story for another day. The impossible made possible. Love brings the sea into boiling and turns the mountain into a pebble. Love creates infinite openings in the dark sky and shudders the earth with its magnitude. Rumi. She spins, this great earth goddess, upon invisible strings amongst a wildly pulsating ballet of life. Stars are born, live, and die all around her. Life moves in constant flux, and still she spins in her great, loving, constant pirouette. How can this be? All of creation is born from nothing. Out of endless silence and darkness, light emerges. What strange magic is that? The sun heats the solar system and burns with the power to destroy life. Yet, it is a force by which life is sustained. Surely, this makes no sense and cannot be. We dance in the realm of the impossible made possible constantly, you and I. We are so engrossed in it, so familiar with it, and yet blind to it, that these constant impossibilities happening in every moment fail to inspire us. Yet what are your biggest, boldest, most extraordinarily impossible dreams compared to this great impossibility of life itself? They are but tiny seeds in the Creator's masterful hand, being now planted in the heavenly garden. Yes, they are being planted right now, for the moon tells us the time is right. Most tenderly shall they be watched over, nurtured into fullness according to the season. Yes, that growth is assured. The impossible is now made possible. We only limit what we believe to be possible by our lack of imagination. The divine has recourse to all that is, and all that is yet to be. Is there any limit to the resources of the heavens? No. So then, why has not every impossible dream now been rendered possible? Indeed, manifest in shining glory upon the earth. The human heart knows everything envisioned can manifest according to divine timing and grace. Yet the mind does quake with fear, so much so that it will not listen to the heart at times. That fear is a childlike nightmare, that should you offer yourself up to the sacred loving power of the great Creator, you might be found to be lacking. The mind holds itself captive with dark fantasies of that profound rejection, and then avoids confronting it directly at all costs. It creates barriers instead, truly nothing more than lines in the sand, yet believed to be forts. But what strongholds can resist love? It is like water. It seeps into every available space and changes form to survive in every environmental condition. With unfailing intelligence, it creates life. From steam to ice, rainfall, the river, and ocean, rain descending into snowflakes, snow capping the peak, expressing itself with beauty and genius. It nestles under the earth and rises to the sky, only to return to the earth again. It will erode blockages and prevail, no matter how long that process takes. It carves the earth into shape and form. Where it is, there is life. Such is the adaptable intelligence and persistence of water, just as is the power of love. So now you are guided by this loving power to drop the doubt. Shed the incredulity and open up the mind. Allow your imagination to be inspired as though you are a child in a great garden, hearing the breath of the earth, in the wind-whipped leaves, and the voices of the ancestors in birdsong. The universe wants to happen for you. Something beautiful, something utterly improbable, and something perfect for your path, your own unique divine destiny. Your mind will wonder if it is even possible. People around you may wonder the same thing, but your heart will burn for it to become real, to become more than a fantastic, improbable dream. You'll want it with all your soul. You may not even be consciously aware as yet what this great desire is, but your heart knows. It holds the secret knowledge and will unveil it when your mind can handle it. When your heart is much more powerful than your mind, you won't unintentionally block the incredible grace of manifestation seeking to pour into your thirsty soul, like the sweetest, purest waters of blessing. Sending you all love.